Welcome, everybody. This is Janet, and we are so happy you're here visiting us with our free webinar on Is Your Website a Ghost Town? So, Jillian, do you want to take it away?
Okay, so we believe you're here today because of this answer of Is your website a ghost town? And let's get right into it. So the first question is, what's wrong with my website? Why do I not have the traffic that I'm expecting? This is one of those, you built that beautiful website, but nobody came, and you're wondering what's wrong. So we're going to tell you straight off, probably it has to do with your SEO. And for those of you not familiar with what SEO is that's simply search engine optimization, which is like tweaking your website, is influencing the natural search results so that your web pages rank well in search engines like Google. So that's essentially what SEO is in a nutshell. So you're probably wondering, why is SEO so important? So you got to think about, there's 3.5 billion searches every day on Google. And 70% of business transactions start with a Google search. When somebody's looking to buy something, the first thing that they do is they go to the Google and they type that in. So we're talking about, what is SEO? And SEO is basically made of three different things. There's your technical SEO, which is how your website's built and how it works. There's content, which is the words, the pictures, and the videos that are on your blog page, on your web pages, and on your blog posts. And then there's links. And links are from other websites back to your website. And we kind of think of those as kind of like popularity votes, thumbs up that you're doing a good job and Google likes those things. And then with those three things, there's also social media. And social media is sort of an indirect part of SEO, in that social media is driving traffic to your website with engagements like likes and shares and comments, those type of things. And hopefully social media is adding links to your website as well. So that's sort of how social media fits in. So where do you start with this thing called SEO? Because SEO is really what's causing the problem of the lack of traffic on your website. And scary as it sounds, you have to start with what's called your technical SEO. So that's kind of
very scary.
Yes,
starting with technical SEO. Most of us small business owners have no idea what to do with all that. So
right,
I think this is key.
Because most people think, oh, I just have to find some keywords and just rank for those keywords. But the problem is it's kind of, your website has to be SEO friendly. And think of it like this. If you were going to put your house up on the market and you wanted to sell your house and you wanted to have an open house, you wouldn't just do it with your house the way it is. You'd look around and say, oh my God, this house is a mess. I have to clean it up. I have to spruce it up. So you're going to have to tidy it. You're going to have to maybe put on a little bit of paint. You want to show your house in the best light before you have an open house and sell it. Same is true for your website. You don't want to go into, having your website get into the search engines if maybe there's some problems behind the scenes that when people come from a Google search, they're going to go, ugh, this is not ready for me yet. So that is why you have to start with your technical SEO first.
And then often what happens, right, Jillian, is they'll come to your website, and if it's not user friendly, they're going to bounce. And of course, Google's going to ding you that because they didn't stick around.
Exactly. So with your SEO, if your website is not SEO friendly, the problem that you're going to encounter is that not only maybe people aren't going to find you, but people could find you and give you a bad vote. And then that way, it's like, it's even going to do worse for your SEO if that happens. So let's tell you a little bit about our story before we kind of get into the webinar. So I'm Jillian Whitney, and my partner here, my business partner, is my sister too, Janet Eli. We're of Launch for Life, and we know exactly what it's like to have a ghost town of a website. We have built websites for ourselves. We've built websites for other people, and we've done great jobs of making a website. But then we kind of hit that, if you build it, they will come, but they didn't come. And we had one client that turned to us once and said, what's the point of having a great website if nobody ever sees it? And that's when we knew we had to learn this thing called SEO. We needed to find out, okay, you have a gorgeous website, but what's the problem? What do you need to do to get that website seen by the right people? And that is what we learned the hard way. We found SEO to be very difficult, very hard to understand, so many moving parts. We didn't even know where to start. So we read a lot of books. We took courses. We did so many different things, trial and error, just learning this SEO thing. And we figured it out. And you don't have to be a rocket scientist to do SEO, but you do need a little bit of help. And our mission now is that we want to empower other small businesses to do their own SEO. So we believe in the do-it-yourself approach, and that is our commitment. And that's essentially why we're holding this webinar today. Right, Janet?
Yes. And I think small business owners always want to be in charge of everything. And so that's why this part of your business journey has to include knowing all these things, even if you end up one day getting somebody else to do it for you. Being knowledgeable is empowerment for yourself.
Absolutely. Because you don't want to turn over to somebody else and have them just start driving things. And, God forbid they drive it into the ground. So you spent a lot of time.
They don't even know what they're doing, but they look like they know more than you. And so you give them a nice check and then find out afterwards they didn't.
And there's unfortunately a lot of dodgy people in SEO. And so you have to kind of go into this with your eyes wide open so that you can make the right choices about doing it yourself or hiring somebody else. But you can't play the ignorant card with SEO. You have to understand some of it so that you can make the right decisions on how you have to proceed. So that's sort of what we want to cover today, is kind of what are the things that we can empower you with today. So that leads us into what our agenda is today. So first of all, we're going to show you how to find out why nobody's finding you on Google. This is important. You want to know how to do this yourself. So we're going to actually give you some tools. By the end of this, you're going to be little SEO baby gurus. You're going to know
empowered.
You're going to be empowered. We're going to talk specifically about 6 SEO traffic roadblocks so you can kind of know what you're going to be looking for. And we're going to talk about how to do all this without breaking the bank. So we got an awesome free tool that we're going to show you, and sort of how to get started with this all. So let's
go.
Let's go. Okay, so here's our first SEO roadblock, and this is a biggie. Does Google even know that your website exists? And this is important because if Google doesn't know about your website, then you're never going to come up in the search results. And this is a huge, huge part. And just as a simple tip on how to do this. So this is an example of our website. You put Launch for Life in the Google search, and we have a Google My Business page, and it shows our LinkedIn and our YouTube and our Facebook, and it shows our website. This is what ideally everybody wants to have. And so how do you do this? How do you figure this out? So the first thing is just Google yourself. Just run your business name, your brand, your business name in a Google search, and you're going to see, where do you show up? If you don't show up on the first page for your own name, there's a problem. Either your name is just way too generic, or there's a problem and Google is not seeing you. And that's sort of like the little baby step, is just go to Google and type in your business name. Down the road, what we would suggest is that you really need to have 2 tools to really play nicely with Google. The first one is Google Analytics, and this is a free tool, and you can set this up. And what this does is it allows you to see all the people that are coming to your website, where they're coming from, what pages they're seeing, what countries do they come from? Are they coming from a mobile device? Are they coming from a laptop? All these different things. Are you getting, traffic from Facebook? Google Analytics is really good because it just helps you see exactly, how people are finding you. The next thing is called Google Search Console. And I have to admit, this is a scary techie program, but again, it's another free tool. And this is where you're going to use things like, this is basically how you talk to Google. So one of the things we'll talk about in a little bit is a sitemap and a robots text file. And these sound horribly techie, but don't be freaked out by this. A sitemap is just a map of your website, and you want Google to have one of these so it says, oh, when I get to your website, I know that you've got a blog and you've got an about us and you've got a contact us, all those kind of, what are the web pages that you have? What are all the different links to all those sub pages? That's what's in your sitemap. And a robots text file is just a little special file that you give to the Google bots who, comb through your website that basically tells them, I want you to look at these pages, but don't look at these pages. It just kind of tells them what you want them to search and what you don't want them to search. So those are three things that are important, and we'll talk about those more later. So the next roadblock, so the first one was Google. Is Google seeing your website? So the second roadblock is, can searchers find your content? So when I sit down and I do a search in Google, if I am your potential customer, if I'm typing in what I'm looking for, am I going to find you for those words that I'm typing? So this is important in that you need to know your audience. Who is your audience? Who is your ideal customer? You really need, you can't have the whole world is going to just come and look for you. There's special people that you are optimizing your entire website for. So you need to know your specific target market, your special ideal audience, and what are their problems? What are the keywords that customers are typing into Google? And unfortunately, it's not always what you think it is. Here's an example of dog photo tips. Well, that's kind of a difficult keyword, because if I was like a dog photographer and I wanted to show things, I have to put dog photographer, but maybe people would not naturally type that in. So you have to figure out, what are people looking for and what are the words that they're using? And it's not always the words that you think it is. And that is the trickiest part to doing your SEOs, is listening to your audience and figuring out what are those keywords. So if you can figure out who your target market is and what those keywords are that they're typing into a Google search that you want to show up as the best result for, you have to learn to use the right keywords, and you have to learn to put them in the right places. And this can be kind of intimidating, because you're just like, oh my gosh, where does keywords go? And here's just like a little baby example so that you can see keywords can go in the title of a Google search. So this is just like a search result that you'd see in Google, but it could be in the title of the page. It could be in the URL, which is what you click to go to that blog post. It could be in the description. This is the description that you see in Google. So your keywords have to be in several different places, and there's even more. Now, the great news is that you don't have to be a code developer, you don't have to be a code monkey to get all this stuff in. There's an awesome plugin called Yoast SEO. It's free. There's a premium version, but the beginning version, you can just get it for free. And that kind of walks you through where you want to put all those right keywords. So this is important. And unfortunately, just having the plugin by itself doesn't do SEO. Then you have to figure out, what is the keyword that you want for your particular blog post or your web page. And then you've got to insert that into the Yoast SEO plugin, and that will update it for the Google search. So unfortunately, I actually came across somebody yesterday that thought just installing the plugin by itself was good enough. Like, don't I have good SEO now? No, you have to install the plugin, and then you have to use the plugin by finding the right keyword. So
unfortunately, this is only for WordPress, Jillian. So if somebody doesn't have a WordPress site, they'll probably have to go look at some other websites that might give them some keyword support.
Yes. And that's the difficult, like nowadays, if you can be on a WordPress website, you really should be on a WordPress website because it just has the easiest ways to do SEO. If you're talking about having a website on Squarespace or Wix or Weebly, it's going to be a little bit different. Yeah, it's going to be challenging. And to be honest with you, it's very difficult for us to kind of coach anybody who's not on WordPress because that's not our specialty. So you would really want to look for somebody who's doing SEO for those particular programs. But a lot of what we're telling you today, you can still use the basic ideas. So even if you don't have a WordPress website, stay on this webinar because you're still going to learn a couple of tricks that you can take use of no matter what your platform is.
And there are some other programs you can use for keywords like Uber Suggest or
right, exactly.
Answer the Public's another one.
Right. So, and anybody can find keywords anywhere. There's all sorts of different programs for finding keywords. It's just how you put those keywords into your website is different if you're not using WordPress. So if you're using WordPress, you want to get the Yoast SEO plugin, and then it's very easy to put keywords in your page title and your URL and your meta description. But when you're on the different websites, they don't have Yoast. So that's going to make it a little bit harder for you, but it's still doable. It's still doable. Okay, number 3 roadblock is your website mobile friendly. And this is a toughie. As a matter of fact, Google actually now penalizes websites that do not have mobile friendly versions. And so you have to always, even if you never use a phone yourself for anything, you have to remember that now the majority of people are using phones. They say even things like Facebook, the majority of people are now using Facebook on their phone as opposed to their laptop or their PC. And so what you essentially have to make sure is your website looks just as good on a tablet, just as good on a phone as it does on a big computer. And this is very difficult because it means you have to have a website that's mobile responsive. And that means that when you shrink it down, it looks good. So here's an example that you can see on a phone. The text is bigger, while on a tablet, the text is a little bit smaller. So you can see this is an example of our website and how it resizes on a phone and both on a tablet. And if you were to take those phones and tablets and turn them to the side so that instead of being up and down, they're side to side, they would resize again and look a little bit different. So this is very, very important. So you want to make sure your website looks good both on phones and tablets. And you also want to make sure that all your fonts and your navigation is also legible. If you have, like, here's an example of a don't do and a do. And as you can see in the one with the red X, it's like nobody could read that. no
even with reading glasses, I wouldn't be able to read that.
Exactly.
And if your audience happens to be seniors who are all using mobile phones, anybody who thinks they're only using desktops is like not with it with seniors today. But seniors could not read that. They certainly could read the one with the check mark.
Absolutely. And also too, we all have fat fingers. So it's very important that your navigation, that you can click on something. Like if you look at the one with the red X, it's like, could you really be typing anything in that top box there? It's just like, it's so ridiculous.
And especially men with big fingers.
Yeah. So it's like, don't make me have to use a stylus to put in my email address. It's just not going to work. So being mobile friendly, very important. Okay, so that leads us to the 4th roadblock, which is how is your site speed? And to be honest with you, I had no clue. When we first started doing SEO, I had no clue that there was like you could find out a score for your website, how fast it was. It's like I just figured a website opened when a website opened, but it's not. And slow load speeds are the kiss of death because literally we're all in this, we stand in front of microwaves these days and say, hurry, like we don't have time. We don't have time for any of that stuff. And you have to think about if people are using their phones, they just want to see their thing and go. Have you ever been like with Google Maps and you're trying to get somewhere? You want that Google map up and running now and giving you directions, not thinking and spinning. It's the same thing. So nowadays they say that 40% of the people expect a website to load in under 2 seconds. And it's like, oh my gosh. So it means if you have a website that's loading at 5 seconds, which intuitively you might say 5 seconds, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's really not a big deal. They're gone. They're gone by number 3. So that's a really important thing. So what can cause really poor site speed? Well, the biggest culprit is usually graphics. And it can be one of 2 things. Sometimes it's both, in that you can have a graphic that is actually way bigger than the container you're putting in. So for instance, if you go and have like photos done for your website of you go to a nice photographer and they make a beautiful picture for you to put on your website, those kind where you kind of put your arms in front of you and you look real smart. Well, if you go to a photographer and have that done, that photo is probably huge. It's like 6,000 pixels wide, but your laptop, where it's going to be is probably just like a tiny little space of like 500 by 500 pixels. So when you take a great big file and you push it into a little container on your website, you're making your website work too hard. It's taking too long to bring it up and then shrink it back down. So you don't want to have files that are way too big. And also we just need to get an idea of what your file is about. It doesn't have to be the most incredible, version of the file so that the file size is like 15 meg. You want to have little teeny files so that they just open up real quick and then people can move on. So usually it's the graphics. That's like the number one reason why your website's running slow. And then also sometimes it's your host provider. And that doesn't seem to happen as much, but if you're on some cheap and dodgy place, you might have really terrible hosting. And unfortunately, you can even be on a good hosting program and find that your web host provider is not very good. So, that's an important thing too. But truly, number one is really your graphics. So then the next roadblock could be your social media connections. And remember going back to that little diagram at the beginning, I said social media is sort of like a secondary thing. So you just want to have social media sort of accentuating your traffic. So it can definitely drive traffic. This is where we tell people, if you think you should just be doing everything on social media, no, you should be using your social media to always drive traffic back to your website. So it's very important that you connect these together. So if you are using social media, which you really should, because it kind of gives you some popularity votes and it's a great way to get traffic to your website, you want to really get this well connected. And here's our recommendations for that. First of all, you want to choose just to work with a few social medias, platforms, and you really want to work them. So that means that, we've seen people that have had Pinterest and Twitter and Instagram and, 10 different social media platforms all attached to their website. And then when we click on their Instagram, they've never posted anything. They have an Instagram account, but it's like, that's not using social media. You're better off limiting yourself on which ones you really use. So for instance, with us, we really like Facebook and we really like LinkedIn. Those are the 2 ones that we actually are spending all our time working with. So don't be posting things that you don't use because it just looks silly. So just don't do that. And then you want to drive traffic to your website from those platforms. And you want to take stuff that's on your website and drive it to your social media. So you really want those connected together. The next roadblock is whether your website is safe for your customers. So you want to make sure that your website's secure. And I want to tell you, a lot of people go, oh, I don't do e-commerce. This has nothing to do with me. I don't need to have a secure site. Yes, you do. Everybody needs to have a secure site because Google doesn't rank you well. And also too, if you get this little message that pops up and you see it on the center of my screen that says your website is not secure, that instills no confidence in people. They feel like if you're, yeah, they're just,
or they'll think you're unprofessional.
absolutely, absolutely. So it doesn't matter whether you're selling things on your website, or if you just are a blogger, it doesn't matter. Everybody needs to have a secure website. And it's truly just the difference between having an HTTP versus an HTTPS. That's just those little letters that appear at the front. You have to buy a SSL certificate, but let's get into that for a second. So in order to make your website safe, first of all, you have to have what's called an SSL certificate, something you have to go buy. You buy it once a year and you have it attached, and it just makes your website safe. And it has to be set up correctly. And that is really tricky. That's one thing, again, we learn through experience. You buy your SSL certificate, you have it turned on and everything's good. And then you realize, oh, it's only set up for my homepage. It's not set up for all the rest of my website, or it wasn't set up for my images. So it's kind of tricky. So a lot of times it's kind of like that Yoast SEO plugin. You can't just have something and figure you're done. It has to actually, you have to buy it, you have to get it, install it, and it has to be installed correctly. And so this is very, very important.
Jillian, wouldn't our recommendation be, if you're now just building a website, have it put on initially when you get started so that you don't have to do all the fixes later on?
Absolutely.
If you had to optimize, 10 or 20 images later, you'll be pulling your hair out.
Absolutely. So having an SSL certificate and having it installed correctly is kind of one of those things you want to do first. This goes kind of at the top of your list. Do it first, because the longer you wait, the more stuff you're going to have to fix up in the end. So yes, that's a good point. Okay, so we've talked about 6 different roadblocks that could be affecting your website, and hopefully
those are good ones.
And even though they're kind of, well, not kind of technical, they are technical. They're not frightening. They're not frightening things. They're obviously things that you can see can have a lot of effect on your website. So the question is, how do you tell?
Fixable. And they're fixable. I think that's the other thing. They're fixable. They're not 6 things that you can go, oh gosh, where am I going to go now? I got to start all over again. They're all fixable. But
exactly,
knowing that you have these problems is the first part of it, and then now be able to go fix it.
Absolutely. And I liken it to like if we were at the airport, and I wanted to figure out how to get to, I got to make a connection at the airport. I've landed, and I got to get to another terminal to get to the gate to get on my next plane. Well, I got to figure out where I am so that I can figure out how I'm going to get where I'm going. And that's what we're going to show you now. You have to figure out, do any of these roadblocks affect you? And once you figure out if they do affect you, then you can make a plan for how do I change this? How do I take care of this? Because if you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to keep having the same results. So if you choose to do nothing and never learn about if your website is suffering from these roadblocks, you're going to continue to have no traffic. So
you're going to have a ghost town.
Absolutely. It won't ever go away. You have to figure out what are the problems that you're experiencing on your website, and then you can figure out, okay, so how do I take care of these problems? So we're going to show you a tool that we like to use, and it can analyze all of these issues that we've just talked about. The great thing is it's easy to use, like honest, no skills here, and it's a free tool. So it's kind of a win-win. I absolutely love this tool. So we're going to do here what's called, we're going to get you a website report card. And we use a program that's called SEO Optimer. It tests, I think, like 100 different things on your website. Doesn't cost you anything to run a report. Now, the only thing is, I want you to understand, it only analyzes the homepage of your website. So when it's looking at keywords and things like that, it's only looking at the very first page. So this is not You'll hear us talk later about what an SEO audit is. This is not an SEO audit. This is just a report card that you can run, sort of a quick and dirty, get an overview of what's going on with your website, but it's only looking at one page. So does that kind of make sense?
Yep.
Okay. So we're going to do a demo today. We're going to take two different authors and we're going to run it through the website report card so that you can kind of see. And we've chosen a very famous author. If you've ever read Da Vinci Code, Dan Brown wrote the Da Vinci Code, Angels and Demons, gosh, so many different books. Origins, I think we both just read Origins.
Yeah, it's an awesome book.
So let's go over to Dan Brown's website. So here we are. We're at Dan Brown's website and we can take a quick look at it. So it's actually it's going so
very
fast.
Cool. It's very nice.
It's very
nice. All those beautiful pictures.
Yeah. So he's got lots of great pictures of all his books. And we see he's got news and stuff about his book tours, and he's got media, and it links to videos, and he's just got a ton of things here. He's got social media links, and we can see that we can get news about him and films and secrets and all sorts of different things. So here is his entire website. He even does look like master classes and all sorts of things. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to copy his website, and we're now going to go to this tool, which is called SEO Optimer. And you can sign up for a free trial, but you don't need to. And unless you're going to do, you're an SEO agency, I wouldn't recommend it. It's quite expensive. But you can come in here and do a free report anytime. So all you have to do is you just have to type in the name. I don't know why that jazz came, so we don't want that. We just want
got a hashtag.
We just want his main website. So here's his main website, and then we just click Audit. So does a little search. And it goes through and it's going to pop a picture of his website in here.
So anybody on the call with this program can go and check their own website, no matter what program it's on, whether it's WordPress, Shopify, doesn't really matter.
Doesn't matter.
So, oh my gosh. And Dan doesn't even probably do his own website. And
no.
He got a professional person doing this, and he's not an A+.
He's not an A+. He gets a B+.
Ooh, so let's go fire that guy.
And as you can see, it's nice. It kind of breaks it down and it tells us, according to SEO, here's his score. It gives him a usability score, performance. So usability is going to be like your mobile and that sort of thing. Performance would be your speed, and then your social would be your social media, and then your security would be your SSL secure. So it goes through and it says, okay, these are all the pages that I see related. So we see sort of a review of all the different pages on his websites.
But again, this is only reviewing his homepage, right?
His homepage.
So notes that he has other pages, but we're not seeing those scores here.
Right. It's just saying that these are the children pages. These are the pages that are linked on his website. So if we look at his SEO, it says his SEO is really good. They give him an A-, and then it goes through and it talks about, these are the things that we talked about earlier with like where you want to get your keywords. You want to get your keywords in your title and the meta description. That's that little blurb in the Google search results that make you want to click on the link, like, is this a good? And it gives you some idea of, the different things that you're doing, where are you putting your keywords in? It tells you what keywords you're using. His number one keyword is Dan. Maybe that's not, it's like even when you look at a phrase, Dan Brown, he's using that 21 times, but of these is actually, he's using that phrase more. So it's just kind of interesting. And it goes through and it talks about different things. This is an important one in that it talks about, your images. So if we go back and we look at Dan Brown, he had lots and lots of images on his website, right? We see all sorts of books and we see pictures of him and all sorts of different things. So the interesting thing about images is that the Google bots, which are the little, Google's little robots that go through and show you a website. They that scour and index your websites. They don't see images, and so we have to have what's called alt text, which is alternate text, that describes those images, so that if somebody was blind and was using a computer that is made for blind people to read things on the internet, that those images would be described by a reader. And as such, if you make sure that you explain what all those images are, well, then the Google bots will go through and they'll be able to tell what your pictures are. So this is really, really important. And so in the case of Dan, he has 65 images, but 59 of those are missing an alt attribute, which means all those images, Google has no idea what they are. So it's really an important thing to have. And then here's links. It talks about, how many links does are basically how many other links are linking to Dan Brown, and he's got tons. He's got tons because he's really, really famous. And usually this domain authority, this is kind of like how popular is your domain. So if you're like, say, someone like Wikipedia or CNN, you're going to have a really, really high domain score. But if you're just some guy with a brand new baby website, you could be like 2. So, someone who has 60 is doing really, really well. It here is telling us that there's 1 broken link. So that's actually not too bad. Broken links are terrible for your SEO because they give you people a vote of non-confidence. There's nothing worse than you click on a link.
So if somebody's going to click that link, it's not going to go to wherever they wanted them to go to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then the next thing they're talking about is, are his URLs easy? Easy. They're not ridiculously long that nobody could ever type them in. So friendly URLs are short and concise, good for people and search engines. And then remember we talked earlier about having a way that like you can talk to Google, and you do that with your robots text file and your sitemap. And so the sitemap was basically just, here is a map of your website, so that when the Google bots hit your website, they know how to search through all the different pages. And then the robot text file is saying, okay, look at these pages, but don't look at those pages. Because you might have things like a shopping cart or a privacy rule that you don't necessarily want to show up in a Google search result.
Or even a contact you page. That's probably not material, correct?
Yeah, you might not want those. So that's where the robot text file comes in. But these are the 2 ways that you communicate with Google. The Google search bots is through those 2 things. And then this is nice because it tells us that Google Analytics, which is sort of, remember I talked about that before, that shows you all your different pages and your audience and how are people finding you and what country are they coming from and are they on mobile devices or tablets or PCs or whatever. So we can see that Google Analytics is actually set up for Dan Brown's website. So his SEO people are doing some good stuff. So it's good that they have that set up. So here is your usability. So he gets a B+, and we see that he looks nice on a phone. He looks nice on a mobile, so that's good. And looks like he's using something called iframes, which is when you are showing another site, another website within your website, and Google hates that. So that would be something that Dan's people should take care of and not do that. So performance, this is what relates, gives you all the numbers on your speed. So we can see he's got a C, so he's got to do some things. And so it looks at his server, where his website's being hosted, and that seems to be actually pretty good. But if you look at different things, like he's got a lot of content to be loaded, the page size is really big. It breaks down, how much, most of his stuff is images. So we can see that the majority of things on his pages is images. So that's a lot, on his homepage, 7 meg of images. That's going to take a long time to load. So that explains that. And then this gives us some other stuff about, for the most part, I think it's because he's not optimizing his images. So if we click on that little button, we can see here's all of his images that are really affecting his page speed. And if you look at
I remember when you and I were looking at that, and he had some images that were Absolutely huge.
Yes, yes. So when you have really, really big images, it's really going to affect your page speed, and especially when you have a website with lots and lots of images. So that's really important. So let's now move to the social. So his social is very good. It shows that he's connected his website to Facebook and to Twitter, and he's got a really good following on Twitter. Look at, he's got
407,000 people.
That's
I'm
awesome.
actually surprised it's not millions, but that's beside the point.
And here's an example of, maybe he, we see that he has an Instagram profile, but we don't see anything with the followers. So it's possible that he's kind of hooked up Instagram, kind of thinking, oh, you got to be cool and be on Instagram. Well, if you're not using it, you're,
He's probably not posting anything.
Exactly. Never worry about Google Plus, because Google Plus is going away. YouTube. So I was actually kind of surprised he doesn't have a YouTube channel. But again, YouTube is another, YouTube is kind of unique because it's like a social media platform on steroids, because YouTube has its own search. And so that's a great way to drive traffic to your website is through YouTube, having a YouTube channel. And we see he's not on LinkedIn, which I thought was kind of interesting. I would have thought he'd be on LinkedIn. So this just kind of gives you an idea of how you're doing. And then for security, so this is about making your website safe for your customers. And we see that he actually has SSL enabled. But if we look at his website, what do we see? It says not secure. So it says
he added it, but never did the right things to make it connect. So it's like it's a broken link almost to the SSL certificate.
Yeah, and it's really sad because he's
paid for this.
Yeah, you've spent the money. You've got it set up, but it's not set up right. There's something wrong. So this is something where Dan's people should actually get on this and make sure that that's taken care of. And so here it is. If we go to his website, we see that it's not set up as an HTTPS. He's still showing up as HTTP. So something's not right there that needs to get fixed. But the good news is he doesn't have any viruses and, all that sort of thing. So that's always good to know. So that basically gives us a nutshell of here's all the different things. So we see that he's on a WordPress site. So that's a good thing to know. And we can even kind of go through and at the very end, it lists all the recommendation and then what's a priority. So, probably the biggest thing is his page files are just too big, and they're too big because of those images. So his keywords probably could use some, changing. He's got to fix those broken links. So it's really nice that it kind of goes through and tells you what you need to do and what the priority is. So you can get a good idea of what do I need to do? What do I got to take care of my website and get this all in? So that is our first case study. So then
before you go there, I just think the takeaway from this is, all right, so even people like Dan, who you first look at his website and you think, oh, he's got an awesome website. And then you go behind the scenes and you find out that it's got a ton of issues. But the thing is, Dan Brown, we all know Dan Brown because all his books are in the stores. He's got movies. And so, Dan Brown is a person in his own right. But if we as small business owners, we don't have that kind of famousness as Dan Brown does. So if we don't have good websites, though it might look good on the surface, if it's got broken links behind it, that's really going to hurt people coming to find us. So again, we're not going to be a metropolis. We're going to be a ghost town because we have all these issues. Nobody's going to come, and if they do come, they're not going to stick around. They're going to bounce.
Absolutely. And so, like you said, it's even more imperative that we do whatever we can to eliminate these roadblocks, because we are not influencers. We don't have the social, we don't have that social influence. We don't have a gigantic publicity machine behind us. We're just the simple guys who like write a book and we want to sell our book on Kindle, or we have an online course. We're just sort of your average Joes. And yet the awesome thing about SEO is that we can compete. A small little author can compete with the Dan Browns. They can get out there and be found. So, it's kind of like a great leveler. The Google search engines, if you can get yourself out there, it's like you can be there even if you don't have a huge team behind you, if you know how to do the right stuff. So now we're going to look at seeing as how we're not all Dan Browns, most of us are just regular people with regular websites. So this is a client that we made a website for, who, I'm going to warn you, we have never done any SEO for this client. This is one of those built it and ready to go until realized.
Well, he didn't really care. He didn't want to spend the money for us to do all of those things. He just wanted us to slap up a website, which is what we did. And he refers people to it, but he's not using it for people to go out and, Google his book and find
Absolutely.
him.
So somebody with a web presence, but then we want to just show you that it's like, this is a very nice website. It's got pictures. It's got all the different things. It's got photos. You can purchase the book. You can learn about the author. So this is sort of very typical, solopreneur doing their own thing, publishing their own book. Now they're working towards getting it on Kindle, all those different things. And when we look from the outside, it looks like a really nice website. So it's only when we can go in and take a look at it in the SEO Optimer, that our website tool, that we actually can see, okay, so let's see the behind the scenes and see what's going on. So we're going to run this one through, and it takes a couple of minutes. Okay, so we get Dan Brown. What did Dan have? He was like a B something. So this is, again, gives you an overall grade. And then it goes down and gives you a grade for each different aspect. So let's go through and have a look. So it's the same thing. It's going to show all the different pages that come off the website. And remember, it's only testing the home page. It's not going through all those different ones. And then we see, okay, SEO could be better, D+. So this
A lot better.
But this is a really good thing, so that you go, well, I didn't know what I didn't know. I built a website. I thought the website was being seen by Google. That's what most of us think in the beginning. We just build a website and naturally Google's going to love it and going to show it. Well, no, because this website has not been optimized for SEO. And so we look and it's like, okay, we've got a title, but we don't even have a description. So if somebody found this website in a Google search, they don't really know what it's going to be about. They're just going to see the title, but no description. And that description in a Google search, that's what makes you want to click the link. That has to be really well written. You want it to entice people. That's your 1 second or less little advertisement of click me, click my website. So that's very, very important. And so then it goes through and it's going to talk about the keywords, and the keywords have not been optimized for this website. So we haven't done any of this analysis, and that absolutely shows. And amazingly, when we built this website, we did naturally put in the alt text for every single image. So who knew? I didn't even know what alt text was, but we did that right in the beginning. So there are no backlinks.
Domain. Nobody knows.
Nobody knows. This website is like a little island, a little island unto itself, and that no one else is referring to this from anywhere else. And as a consequence, if you don't have any links, and think of them as kind of like thumbs up, you got a great website, so much I want to tell people about it, well, you're going to have a really low domain authority. So remember, Dan was 60. Someone like Wikipedia or CNN is probably going to be 80 or 90. But somebody who's just getting started, you're lucky if you're 10. Most people we know are like 5. So, never feel bad about this because it can only go up. It's going to go up, and that's a good thing. Luckily, there's no broken links. The URLs are good. So that's nice that we've done that. We did submit the sitemap and the robots text to Google search, but we never hooked up the Google Analytics. So that is a question of, this website owner can't get a good idea of what kind of traffic they're getting because the Google Analytics has never been set up. But at least the Google does know the site exists, so that's good. We just can't see what those traffic patterns are. Here's the usability. So here's how it shows up on a phone and on a tablet. So that looks good, and it's blowing up the text accordingly. So that's good, making things legible. So everything's very good there. But performance is the B+. So isn't that funny? This author is, I think, doing better than Dan Brown when it comes to performance. So here's where we say SEO is very leveling in that, this is doing really well. It's loading quickly. There's not a lot of content. The images are not the majority, they're less than a meg, so that's really, really good in that this is not going to slow this website. It's going to open up a lot better on your pages. So that's good. Some of them can still be optimized though. And this is going to go through and tell me, okay, there's 2 images that there's a little bit big. So you could still make those a little bit smaller. So social. We know personally that this author is not a big fan of social media. They don't use social media. And so we're seeing that there's no connections to the website, even though we know this author does have a Facebook business page. It's not linked to the website, so they're separate islands. So
that's because we know he doesn't post anything, so we didn't want to put it to another ghost town. So this just kind of shows you that social media is important and it needs to be linked to your website. And then if we look at the security, there is no SSL certificate. So if we go back up here, we see that the author does not have an SSL certificate. And so, that's just a really important thing that you do need to have it. And this person hasn't even bought it. So obviously it's not even purchased or set up, but that is something that should be done. And they don't have any virus, which is really good. And then we go through and we see, oh, it's a WordPress site. So you know that it's a WordPress site and all that different things. And then, of course, here are all the recommendations that they would have to do to really make their site an SSL and friendly website. So those are our 2 demonstrations of a tool, this SEO Optimer, which we think is an awesome way that you can go through and get, all those things pointed out. Now, what's interesting is if you would like to get a copy of this report, if you don't have an account, you can't print it. And that means if you're on the free version, you're not on the paid version, you can't download it.
Exactly. So you can't download this report, and yet it really would be nice to have this. And so in order to do it, if you just go ahead and copy that URL for your report and you use this program we like to use, which is called Screenshot Guru, you can just go ahead. You have to say you're not a robot, and then you just go ahead and you hit enter. And it takes a couple seconds, and it will go ahead and put this all into a long continuous screenshot for you.
Well, while it's doing that, I just wanted to say, I thought the takeaway for Patch Pub was that a lot of people just think, I just need to get a website up and that's all I'm going to need. And of course, that's what that customer asked us. And every time we said, well, we think you should do this or you should do that, he said, no, I just want people to know there's a website. That he could have been getting more traffic to his website for more book sales if he had listened to us and spent a few extra dollars to put the SSL certificate on, to ask us to do the Google Analytics and, do some other things that, would have given him a higher grade. And then he probably would have gotten more people to his website. So sometimes if you're going to build a website, you just can't be cheap about it. You have to make sure that it's right.
Absolutely. It's like, it's like getting a store and there's no road going to your store.
Right, or parking lot.
Yeah. And you're just going, I have everything ready to go in this store. I have the open door sign and I'm here and I'm ready, but your people aren't going to get to the store. They don't even know your store exists, which is so sad, which is so sad.
All right, so here's our screenshot.
So it just tells you at the top, it says your screenshot is ready. Just right click the image and download. So if I just right click and I do save, and then it will just go to my, it'll just go down here, and now it's downloaded and I can see.
And now you just need to rename it once it goes into your downloads.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's our kind of workaround, so that you can
so like a little cheat sheet for getting your, and then that way you've got the PDF, so you can go in and take a look at it and line by line and see, okay, what corrections do you need to make?
Right.
It makes you realize if you don't do well on your front page, what the heck is going on with your second, third, fourth, and fifth page?
Absolutely.
Like,
So that was using Screenshot Guru, which, by the way, is just like a really cool resource. I use it for a lot of things where I want to just, have a look at how somebody's website is designed. And, we've used that in the past for sharing websites with clients so that they can see how every single page looks, because that's what's nice. It gives you a big, long page, which is kind of a neat thing. So we like that. So let's just do a recap. So we've showed you what are some of the SEO roadblocks that can basically be causing your website to look like a ghost town. And now we have showed you a website report card tool that is going to allow you to check your own website. So that's sort of what we've covered today. So you're probably thinking, so what do I do now? What do I do now? So the first thing that we would suggest is go to SEO Optimer and test your own website. Run your website through, and then that way you can get a really good feel for what's going on with your webpage and your website. What are the roadblocks that we went through, or others that you go, wow, I didn't know that, my website doesn't look good on a mobile phone. Oh my gosh, that's a very serious thing. Or find out your web speed and all those different things. So that's your first step. You want to go and now test your own website. Don't forget to use that little Screenshot Guru if you want to make a print of it. And then the next step is that unless you have a one-page website or you scored A+, then you really want to do the next thing, which is to book an SEO audit of your entire website. Because as we said before, the SEO Optimer is a really great program to get like a quick and dirty, hey, what's going on with my website, where you can say, I think I've got some problems, but it's only doing one page. So if you have more than one page, SEO Optimer is not looking at the other pages. So, we want to just give you that heads up right now. And if you wanted to have a full entire audit of your entire website, that's when you want to go and book someone to do an SEO audit. That is something that we offer. We have a special right now where normally our SEO audits are $450. For $350, you can hire us to do an SEO audit, and our audits are customized. We will go through your website manually, and we are going to go and look at every single page on your website and give it a thorough analysis. And then we're going to give you an action items of everything that needs to be fixed. And you'll have that fix list. So that's what we do. And our website audits, our SEO audits, come with a 60-minute video conference call where we go over all the results with you so that you understand everything that's wrong, that needs to be fixed. And also too, where the good things are. We don't just tell you the bad stuff. We're going to tell you the good stuff. So we're going to go through it bit by bit and make sure that you understand everything that needs to be fixed. And it's going to be your entire website. And as part of that pricing, we do include an hour-long coaching call, and we will walk you through your website.
I think what's nice about ours too is we do that live with you. So this isn't like we're going to go and we're going to go over the audit and we're going to record it and then we're going to send you the recording. We're actually going to do it live with you so you can ask your questions as we're going through the website. And then at the end, you will get a recording that will include what we said and your responses or your questions and our responses. So you'll be in a really good position at the end of the audit to sort of be empowered to know what your issues are, and we'll give you suggestions on how to finish it or fix it. And then you'll have the report and you'll have the recording.
Exactly. Exactly.
For a mere $350. That's nothing when you think about the amount of people that might not be coming to your website because, you know, it's not optimized properly. Yeah. And if you can fix a few of these things, you'll recoup that very quickly by getting some new sales, because no traffic, no sales.
Exactly. Exactly. Now, if you're not ready for a full audit yet, and you're just kind of like,
you're on the fence.
You're on the fence and you're not sure what to do. Go ahead, run your SEO Optimer, put your website through, see where you are. And if you want, you can book a 30-minute coaching session with us to discuss your website report card. If you've got questions, we've got answers. So if you just want to run your own website through and say, I just want to talk, what does this mean? I don't really understand this part. We'd be happy to get on a call with you. So we can do a 30-minute coaching session, and our normal charges would be $50 to do that 30-minute coaching session. So feel free to book us and we'll go through your SEO Optimer report with you. And if you feel totally overwhelmed and you think, oh my gosh, this is just like way over my head, and you think, okay, I think I'd like to hire someone to do all this for me, want to let you know, we're not an SEO agency, so we don't want to take over and do all your SEO for you. That's not what we do. We are SEO coaches. We want to teach people to do this for themselves. However, we do have a free ebook called Don't Outsource Your SEO Before You Read This ebook, because it really goes through and tells you what you need to know before you make that phone call to call an agency. So it's just a really important thing. And to be honest with you, once you kind of start thinking about it, you might decide, you know what, maybe I could do this SEO if I had someone in my corner mentoring me and teaching me. So that's where we would come in. That we want to be your mentors. We want to be your guides. So, but even if you just know, I don't think I can do this, at least download our book so that you have a good idea of what you need to do before you make that phone call.
I think anybody should download this book because, first of all, hiring an SEO agency is just a lot of money. So even if at the end of the day you're going to do it, you should at least know what you need to know before you hire somebody and know all the costs involved. And then if you're somebody who says, I just don't have that kind of money in my budget, then you're going to learn some things that will help you and assist you in being able to figure out your own SEO with maybe some company like Launch for Life.
Exactly. Exactly. And you might even find out that it's like, okay, I can handle this bit of my SEO, but I need somebody to fix the bigger stuff over here. So
the really technical stuff.
Yeah. And that might be where, sometimes you want to go get a web developer to take care of some of the icky parts, but there's a lot of SEO that you can do yourself, but you do have to start with making sure you've got that house clean before you start inviting over the company.
Right. And if you learn on your blog articles to be able to do your own alt tags, because maybe you haven't been doing them, and once you learn how to do them, you can just go back and fix all of them, and then going forward, well, you'll always make sure you do them right. Exactly. And that you'll put your graphics in at the right size. So there's a lot of things that you can learn that will make your life a whole lot easier going forward.
Absolutely. Okay. So that in a nutshell is what we are, what we do, and what we've provided today. As we said, we're marketing coaches. We specialize in do-it-yourself SEO services, and we just want to help small businesses get new clients, grow their business, and SEO really is the way to do that. So as our wrap up, we encourage you to check out the resources on our website. We have a blog with all sorts of great articles. We have some trainings. We have a YouTube channel. You can check out our YouTube channel as well. And also too, we're going to follow up this webinar with a couple of emails. We'll put a link to the PDF so that you can get the PDF about don't outsource your SEO before you read this ebook. So we'll get that to you as well. And is there anything
they'll
else?
Get a replay of this webinar, right? So they can go back through it again?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we will give you a replay of the webinar. You can watch it anytime. And we hope that this has been valuable, and that we hope that we maybe have taught you some things that you didn't even know.
And don't forget, if you are ready to take the plunge and you want to do that SEO full audit, that you're going to have a link to be able to do that, or you can go directly to our website. Or if you feel you need that 30-minute coaching call for $50, you can just go to our website and request that right away.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that's a wrap. And thank you for being on the webinar with us.
Thank you, everybody. We really hope that you found this worthwhile and you're ready to go to the SEO Optimer and check out your website, because I'm sure you're dying to do that.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye.